All right, here we go. Today we have former San Quentin prison guard and later undercover detective Darren Monahan. During his time as a CEO in San Quentin, he dealt with high-profile prisoners like Charles Manson, Crips founder Stanley Tukey Williams, the Night Stalker Richard Ramirez, and others. Darren, welcome to Vlad TV.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Well, you grew up in the Bay Area.
Yes.
San Jose.
Yes, sir.
Now, you graduate high school, and at one point you thought about being a cop?
It had crossed my mind about becoming a cop. My brother had wanted to be a fireman. I thought, well, I'll try and be a cop. And I took a couple of classes in college, and then it kind of phased out for a minute where I didn't really think of much about it anymore. And I started hanging around a couple guys that were into the motorcycle clubs and into Harleys. And so I hung around a couple guys that were associated with the Hells Angels for a little while.
And then one day, you were at the Santa Clara County Fairgrounds, and there was a recruitment booth for San Quentin prison.
Yep.
Up until that point, being a cop and a prison guard, it's similar, but it's not the same thing. I would much rather be a cop than a prison guard, to be honest. No offense.
Right.
So What happened next?
So we're at the Santa Clara County Fairgrounds, and we're walking around, and there's a big booth, one officer there. It has a bunch of pictures of San Quentin. Mm-hmm. And it looks just like on TV, And so I'm looking at the pictures. Thought it was kind of fascinating, the old buildings and everything. And he had asked me, hey, do you want to work there? I said, no, I don't want to work there. And I'm with two of my friends that were associated with the Hells Angels. And I go, I don't want to work there. And I start to walk off, and he goes, well, wait a minute. You need to talk to me, How do you know you don't want to work there? You don't even know how much money we make. Mm-hmm. And my one buddy turns and looks at him and says, hey, why don't you leave the kid alone? He said he doesn't want to work there. Well, I stopped and said, well, how much do you make? He goes, well, we'll start you off at $1,800 a month. And back then, that was a lot of money in '86. And actually, it was '85 at the time. And so I said, okay, well, I'll fill out the application. So I filled out the application real quick, turned it in, and kind of forgot about it. And then the phone rang at the home one time, and it was them asking me to come take a written test. So I wasn't too sure about it, and I was hanging out with these guys, going to the gym with them, and going to a friend's muffler shop, and at the muffler shop I said, hey, they sent me a thing to be a correctional officer, take the test. So I don't think I'm going to take it. And they said, well, take the test and see where it goes. So I do, and I pass the test, and then I'm going to do I think the next thing was an oral board, a physical agility test and an oral board. And I said, well, I'm not sure I want to do that. It's kind of like being a snitch almost, And they had talked me into it. They said, no, you need to do that. You need to take that job. That job has benefits. It's going to pay well. It's got a retirement system. You hang around here. The club's just going to take stuff from you. They're not going to support you. You're going to be supporting them. And I deep down inside, I think. They kind of saw me different and knew that I probably didn't have it in me to do what they do, to go through all the stuff they do to earn their patches. And so I followed through. And then they had to wait till I turned 21 to send me to the academy. So I believe it was May 1986 I went to the Corrections Academy for 6 weeks in Galt, California.
Okay, so you go to the academy, and then you have your first day in San Quentin prison, which... This is before Pelican Bay and the Supermaxes. So San Quentin, growing up in the Bay, was kind of considered the worst of the worst. Is that fair?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So you're a 21-year-old kid. Now you're a correctional officer in the worst prison in America. How does that start off?
It didn't start off too good, actually. Back, like you said, back then, Corcoran, I think, was just opening, but it was just Folsom and San Quentin had the worst inmates. Mm-hmm. None of the other prisons were open yet. I went through it was either a 1 or 2 week orientation where you do get to go to different sections and learn what they do. But my first job that I actually had to work was in the chow hall, in the kitchen. And it started at 3 a.m. You go there at 3 a.m, there's nobody there. So you go to key control, you get the keys, and you walk into the chow hall, you're the only officer working. I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't have a clue. So I asked the guy in key control, what do I do? He said, ask the free staff what you do. and they'll show you what to do. I said, okay. So I found the free cook. He was a cook. And when I say free, he's not an inmate. He's a civilian staff member. And he introduced me to a inmate that was serving life in prison for killing somebody, and said, here, I can't remember his name for the life of me. He'll show you what to do. So I listened to him, and he took me into the hot room where they kept all the knives and all the tools you need to cook the breakfast. And he explained to me each inmate had a different kind of card or ID card based on their security levels. Certain inmates you couldn't give knives to because they're known to stab people, right? And he proceeded to show me his ID card, and he says, if they have an ID card like this, they can't be around the knives. And I'm sitting there thinking, you're in here with me with all these knives, this is kind of weird. So he said, the other thing you need to do is put the sugar out. Now, people who've been in prison, they know sugar is like gold. At least back then it was. They'd make Pruno and stuff out of it. And so I didn't know any better, and I'd put all the sugar out. About, I don't know, hour or so goes, and the cook comes to me and asks where the sugar is. Well, that inmate got me. I said, I put it out already. And he goes, man, that's the only sugar we have. Now you're going to have to explain to all the inmates why they don't have sugar for their breakfast. Well, I didn't know any better. But we got through that day. And it was rough on me, because when you walk in that place, it looks just like it does on TV or in the movies. There's murals all over. The place is huge. They got gunmen up walking around on the gun walks. And being 21 years old, at that time, I was the youngest person in that prison working out of 1,200 employees.
Oh, okay.
And so it was kind of scary. I was a decent-sized kid. I was a big kid. I'm always just like lifting weights for something to do. But the next day was the exact same job. And this time I go in there and I know better. I do everything right. Well, as we're serving chow, back then they had metal trays. They didn't have the plastic trays. A fight breaks out in the chow hall that I'm in. Well, I turn and look, and everybody's on the ground, including the officers, and all the inmates are on the ground. I'm the only one standing up. I don't know any better. And some of the inmates are yelling at me, they'd call you fish. Fish, get on the ground, get on the ground. And I'm like, what? I didn't understand. What do you mean, get on the ground? And it's going by so fast, yet it's so slow in your head that you're trying to figure out what to do. And right then, a big metal tray goes whizzing by my head and hits the wall behind me. If that would have hit me, that would have hurt. So, of course, I got on the ground. And then it was within seconds, the gunman starts firing the Mini 14. And it's so loud in there when those guns go off, and all the bullets are ricocheting off the wall. They went to a glacier round eventually that would hit something and explode, but they didn't have those back then. It would ricochet.
So these are rubber bullets?
No, they're real bullets.
Real bullets?
Yeah, they're real bullets.
So who were they trying to hit?
He fired some warning shots first before he started shooting the inmates.
Oh.
They would usually do that. They didn't have to, but a lot of times they would.
Okay, and you actually wanted to quit initially.
I wanted to quit that same week. Back up for a second. I was what they call a part-time employee, a PI, part-time intermittent for my first week. Mm-hmm. And it was common back then. You would start off that way, and usually the second or third week they'd pull you up full-time. So you'd get different jobs the first couple weeks working. So that same week, they had given me a job in Industries, the mattress factory. And you go back there, and it's a huge factory that makes mattresses, a mattress factory, right? And 2 officers with, 500-600 inmates, just a ton of them. And it's time for them to get off work and leave and go lock up for count before dinner. So the buzzer goes off, and back then, this is 86, we didn't have electrical alarms, that you could hit. Now they carry an alarm, you can hit it and the buzzers go off. They didn't have those. All you had was a whistle. That was it. That was your alarm.
Whistle. Okay.
A whistle. And so you would actually check your whistle to make sure it works before you go to work. And so the officer tells me, hey, go up there on the deck up there and tell all them inmates to lock up. It's time to go. I said, okay. So I go up there, and it's dark up there, and it goes forever. And way in the back, there's 3 inmates sitting there, and they're just sitting down. And they got these tumblers, and they're drinking their coffee or whatever they have in there. And I tell everybody, hey, it's time to go. We got to go lock up. And everybody's like, okay. And most of them got up and went. And everybody knows you're new. Everybody knew I was new. Well, I turn around, I'm walking, I go back to the stairs, and those 3 inmates are still just sitting back there. They just totally ignored me. Now, in my mind, I'm thinking of in the academy, they tell you, don't let the inmates punk you. Don't let them challenge you. You know, you got to stand up to them, and once you do, they'll leave you alone. So I go back over there, and I said, hey, guys, did you hear me? It's time to go. They said, yeah, we heard you. I said, okay. So I walk off again, walk all the way back to the stairs, and they're still sitting back there. So I go back over there, and I yelled, hey, boy, let's go. Let's go. Come on, boy, we got to go. And the one tall, skinny guy stands up and has this look on his face, and he walks by me, walks real close to me, and just stares at me. And then the other inmate stands up, and he walks by me, just shaking his head. Well, then this great big giant, I don't know if you remember who, I always refer to him as Michael Clark Duncan, I think his name was, the actor, great big, played in the Green Mile with the
Green
big
Mile, yeah.
shoulders and traps, and just gigantic. And not only gigantic, but he's tall. He stands up and he walks in, he's just staring at me. He walks right up to me and he doesn't touch me, but he points. He goes, you're lucky you're new. I'm like, what? What do you mean? He goes, you're lucky you're new. I'm like, I'm sorry, why? What'd I do? He said, you don't call black people boys. And you're lucky you're new. You do that again, then you won't leave up here. No problem. And I did know better, but I wasn't thinking, I just was talking. I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to call a black guy a boy. I'm just talking, let's go. And I was going to quit after that. Because they could kill me up there. Nobody would know the difference until I didn't show up back down the stairs. And so I was going to quit. I went on my weekend. I thought, man, I'll just go paint cars or something. I was into cars and motorcycles. And I went back to work the next week. And I remember working the upper yard, and some whistles went off and the gunshots went off. And back then in '86, the women could still wear skirts. They had correctional officer skirts, which was a wool skirt. And they also didn't have 3 at 50 back then. So you had some people in their 60s working. You know, they just haven't retired yet. And when those whistles and gunshots went off, the flood of the officers went running over there. And 2 of them were women in those skirts, older women, running towards it. And it clicked in my mind. I'm like, wait a minute. If they can do this, I can do this. I just got to stick it out and get used to it. And now, mind you, too, a couple people that I've came there with have already quit. They've already came and quit and left. And so I stuck it out, and I'm glad I did.